has begun, and we're ready to serve the Lord. Certainly, we're in turbulent days. There is certainly a lot that we're facing. That I told the church last night. We're it's not the first time in history that people have faced adversity. It's not the first time in history that people have had to go through tough times. But as for many of us, we're facing things in 2020, at least to the magnitude that we're facing them as they, disrupt life and interfere with function like we've never had before, whether it is COVID-19 and, overreach of governors to shut things down to, try to fulfill their quest for power and then the whole process of the Supreme Court yanking those powers from her and her trying to find another avenue in which to link her power so she can wield her authority once more. And it's just a different time completely. And it really does disrupt function, and it is a difficult thing to navigate or to see what's coming next. And then we have an election like we always do, and we go through the process, and then we find that the Dominion software was incredibly fraudulent and incredibly manipulated by the liberals to take over America. And I'm absolutely convinced that Republicans and Democrats had their showdown at the election. There was a competition. But at this point, Republicans and Democrats need to come together and fight against communism. We have a serious threat right now of taking the voice away from Americans and manipulating a system to put your own person in charge. And that's just communism. That's just dictatorship. That's not America. And boy, I plead with Democrats and Republicans alike to come together as Americans and stand against the corruption that is going to be revealed, and it is deep, and it is widespread, and it is big names involved in it at its very core. And so we're going to need to stand together. But I really do believe that freedom will win, and that Americans will rise to the occasion, and that it will be defeated, and we will have an America like we have, and we will have a new beginning with truth and on the presentation of truth, instead of this incredible deceit that's been through the airwaves, through the mainstream media, the fake news, if you will. It has been crazy, the amount of deceit and manipulation. But I think we're going to dawn a new day. And I really do believe as all this corruption comes out and Americans are faced with facts and truth, that they're no longer going to see red and blue. They're going to see red, white, and blue, the American dream, and they're going to stand against this invasion into our republic form of government, this attempt to take away the voice of Americans to decide. And so I'm excited because God's in charge. I'm excited because this is another day to serve Him. This is another day to see what He has on the horizon, another day to find out what He has in store for me, and what He has in store for my family, what He has in store for our church, what He has in store for our lives as Christians, as Americans. And so we get to serve Him. But as we move our way towards Thanksgiving, I think it's important for us to just take each day a moment to just remember that God gives us everything that we have. I've often used the phrase, it's over on my wall, and it simply said, what if I woke up this morning with only the things I thanked God for yesterday? And that isn't designed to put people on a guilt trip. Obviously, we take many things for granted. We don't thank God for everything every day. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't or that we couldn't. I'm just saying we don't. But at the same time, it's a great reminder just to remember to thank God. It's come to us by way of a good God who is giving us good things by His good hand. And so just saying thank you is a great thing. Thanksgiving is a time for us to just have our hearts swell with gratitude, to be able to express and allow our hearts to just overflow with thankfulness. And so we've talked about a lot of different things that we can thank God for, I today want to zero in on our employment. In other words, maybe you're retired and you can thank God for what He had provided for you by way of employment that allowed you to get to the place of retirement. Or you may be working a job, or you may be looking for a job. Wherever your place is, God is the one who provides. And for those of us who are employed, I think it's very important for us to take time and thank God for what He has provided in a job, a means to take care of our family, a means for us to exist in this world and to participate, having our needs met. And so Ephesians chapter 6, after he talks about the roles in the family, the husband, the wife, the father, the mother, the children, he's dealt with the roles. And then in verse number 5, he says, servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, or the idea of respect, in singleness of your heart as unto Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will doing service, as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bond or free. Well, we know the culture is different in America than it was back in Bible times, and though you had masters and servants back in the Bible times, here in America, we have employees and employers. We have those who set up the rules, and when we agree to them, we do our job. They pay us a wage, and we sustain life. And so here it is talking that we have a responsibility to obey them in the flesh. In other words, what you agree to in your job. If you agree to run a machine for $20 an hour, and you agree to doing that 40 hours a week from this point to this point each day, then that's what you agreed to. And you have a responsibility to embrace that agreement. And then as you're there working, remember that yes, your employer gave you a job, but more importantly, God gave you a job. He gave you a job through the employer. And so your response, first and foremost, is to God and to thank Him for His provision, to thank Him for that opportunity. Yes, we should express gratitude to our employer. Yes, we ought to be thankful for what they have agreed to do in meeting our needs. And so, but as we look at that agreement, we work as unto the Lord first, and then out of respect for our employer. And then he says, not as men pleasers. In other words, you don't do your job so that the boss sees you. That's not your first motivation. You don't do your job so that all the fellow workers are impressed by you. That's not your first motivation. You don't do your job in order for some other company to be impressed with you and want to give you more money. That's not your first motivation. You ought to want to do your best job, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to please your boss, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a good model for the fellow workers, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to better yourself in other employment. But your first motivation has to be, what does God think of my work ethic? What I agreed to do, am I cutting out early? Am I wasting time? Am I being selfish with my hours that I put in here? Am I extending my lunch? Am I extending my breaks? Am I standing around not doing what it is I'm supposed to do? These are things that I have to address in my own heart. Am I doing my best unto the Lord? Because He's the one that gave me this job. And the Bible then makes it very clear in verse number 9 that, or verse number 8, that when we do these things, we're going to see them again. Realizing we're a steward of what God gave us. If God gave us that job and we do it unto the Lord and we do it well, God says when you get to heaven, you're going to get not just the reward you got here on earth for being a good worker, you're going to get reward in heaven for being a faithful steward. And then he reminds the employers and those of us that have employees that work under us, and ye masters, do the same thing unto them, forbearing threatening, knowing that your master also is in heaven, neither is there respect of persons with him. And so here we are reminded that as bosses, as employers, that we're to care for the needs of our employees. We're to minister to them. We're to make sure that we're treating them as we would want to be treated, that we're treating them the way that we see God treating us, and making sure that we're not showing favoritism, that we don't have our favorites, that we're not doing partiality, but that we're allowing people to earn their living, making sure that we help them to be successful in whatever role that God has entrusted to them, and then watching them flourish for the glory of God. And so whether we're an employee or whether we're an employer, we have to remember, you know what? This comes from God, and we answer to God. And may we be motivated to please God. And may this Thanksgiving, we over and over again find ourselves thanking God for the job, for the position, for the opportunity that he has given to each of us. May God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.